Hi, it's 10:41 in the morning. I've already been on this morning, but I just wanted to pop on. I was just having a conversation with my mother, and we were talking about like where did I get my curly hair? I don't know if y'all noticed, but I kind of got some curls, and we were looking at the photos that she has in her room of all of her family, and then all of us, and her mother and everybody like that. And we were just talking, and I said, "Well, Patty looks just like Mimi. I mean, she just does. She looks like she just slapped right off Mimi." And Mother said, "I've been missing Patty lately." And I said, "Okay." I asked her, "Did you ever grieve Patty's passing?" That's my sister. And she said, "I think so." And I said, "Well, I know I didn't have time. I didn't have time." I said, "I was too busy grieving my life." Um, Patty passed 8 months after Eddie did, my first husband. And I was so busy during that time. I was getting all the affairs of our, of everything of my life. I told Mother, I said, "I lost my husband, I lost my family, because my kids scattered, except for the oldest one. If she could have scattered, she would have, because she would just yell at me. She was she was handicapable, and she'd get mad at me, and she was on the wrong medication and stuff, and she'd scream at me, "I hate you, I hate you, I want to get away from you, I don't want to live with you, I don't want to live here, I don't want to live with you." So, basically I lost my kids and my grandkids. Um, let's see, it was husband, family, our business. When he died, our business died. I had lost my job, thankfully. I know that sounds strange, but it was a career. But I'd lost my job in 2018, and not really from anything that I did wrong. But I think that I know God was telling me, "Christy, it's time to move on. It's time to move on." But I was holding on to the job because of the insurance, and because it would cover all of Eddie's medical stuff. I basically worked for insurance. I certainly didn't work for income. But, um, you know, I lost friends. That was rough. People would come around, but not very many. And then on top of it all, I lost Patty, my sister. Now, Patty's the one I told you about a few videos ago, that Daddy had told her that she was unlovable, that nobody loved her. She was unlovable. Oh, that just breaks my heart. You know, rough times in our lives. That was before my dad knew the Lord. My dad thought he wasn't lovable, to be honest. Maybe that's why he married so many times. He was just tough to live with. But aside from that, I lost all of that. But I was telling Mother, I was like, "You know what though? I lost slavery." And I know this sounds hard. It's not slavery so much like American history. What I'm talking about is what the Bible talks about. It says, I'm not in bondage to anybody anymore. Because it was like, "Mom, do this. Mom, do that. Christy, get this done. Christy, do that done." Okay, 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 okay. Anything anybody wanted, Christy was right there trying everything I could do to get it done. And who took after who did those things for me? Well, he hired somebody to help me. And as much as she helped me, She needed my help. And I love her dearly. Even to this day, I love her. Would love to go see her. She's in the hospital, but I don't know if I can. Um, but everything just kept me in in some kind of bondage. Could I go anywhere and do anything? No, no, I couldn't. I couldn't go anywhere. I I just couldn't go anywhere. And I was telling mother, I said, I know that I had grieved Eddie, and I went through like 3 or 4 immense, I do mean immense grief, bawling sessions. And a lot of times it would just come on me when I was driving. That's when you got to say, Lord, drive. I didn't learn that until later, but I would try to pull over because tears and snot and everything. And then Robert and I got together. Eddie passed in July of 2019. Robert and I started talking in through Facebook in February. I went on a ride and he saw me there, and then he Facebooked me and said, "Hey," after he Facebook stalked me, see what kind of person I was. Anyway, but then we started talking, and he said, "Hey, are you going on a ride?" And I'm like, "On the next ride." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm planning on it." He said, "Would you ride with me?" In other words, that means, would you follow along with me? We weren't on a date. I was just, he was saying, follow along behind me, and I'll keep watch over you. If anything happens, I'll take care of you. And I said, yeah, I'll do that. And that's kind of where we started. But um, then I don't know how long it was before I moved in with Robert, because he needed he needed a roommate, and I was flipping my homestead, and I needed somewhere to move. And I had Brandy, and we weren't getting along. We were butting heads just constantly, butting heads. And until I got her medicines right, we were still butting heads because she still had emotional problems, and I didn't know how to deal with emotions. I hadn't even dealt with my own, so how could I deal with hers? And then so we moved in with him, because it's like I went to him at the same time that he was going to ask me. I said, Robert, I've got a problem. Brandy and I need to move out of the house because it's to that point. I I don't have anything covering the windows, and at the time she didn't quite comprehend that you don't sit in front of windows naked. So that was not something I was going to allow. So we agreed. I moved in. We each paid rent, or our third, and it worked out great. But I was telling mother, I was like, you know, Robert was my support through all that, because I would go in the master closet and sit, and I would just be crying my eyes out. Oh, I didn't bring any water. I would be crying, and he'd come in there, and he'd always sit with me. He'd always listen. He'd always hug me, usually from the back. Robert had my back. Man, in more ways than one, Robert had my back. And I would tell him the things that I wouldn't tell anybody else, because I didn't know how. I didn't know how to handle emotions. I didn't realize all this was coming up, but it is, so let's run with it. I didn't know how to run with those emotions, but he let me. And and I said, I told mother, I said, I wasn't grieving Eddie at that time. I was grieving my life. And I, I know that, um, through loss, either through divorce or death, we grieve our lives. I didn't get to have much of a life with Robert, but the life that I had was amazing. But let's get back on track. Y'all know me. Go off on bunny trails. Come on, let's bring it on back. And we grieve our lives. But the Bible says, and I don't even know where, I don't even know where my phone is. I've got a phone call coming pretty soon, and I don't know where my phone is, but that's okay, I'll find it. The Bible says that you have to lose your life in order to find it. And I lost that old self. I lost that old identity. That person, I was not nice then. I was not nice. I had built up too many walls, too much hurt, didn't know how to handle my emotions. I didn't know how to handle anything. Anything. But that person is dead. And I am determined to make sure that person never, ever resurrects. And I am free. The first time that I ever really realized that I was free was, um, a teenage friend of mine. I lived with them on and off a lot on the weekends, sometimes through the week, through in high school and in college. My dad and I didn't get along. Might be because I was a teenager living out in the boonies, and I had a car but very few friends, and we had no money. So anyway, so my friend's mom had passed, and I always called her mom. I call all my friends mom, mom. I even call my mother-in-law mom. Love her. Not my first one. Um, but the first time I ever felt freedom, really realized how free I was when my friend's mom passed. She called me, she said, Christy, Mama passed. And the services are going to be, this weekend and all this. And I said, well, I can't come for the viewing, but I can come for the funeral. And she said, okay. And I was scared. I was so scared. Actually, I didn't tell her I can come. I said, I got to talk with Robert and see. And I was so terrified to come in here. Not that he had any, not that he could say yes or no. We weren't married. We lived together, but not in sin. Um, but we lived together. We were, that was some residue left over from my first marriage, because I would go in there and I'd say, Eddie, I need to go somewhere. Well, who's going to take care of everything? Who's going to take care of Mama? Who's going to take care of my brother? Who's going to take care of Brandy? Who's going to take care of me? Who's going to take care of the dogs? Who's going to take care of? Who's going to take care of? And and if I really wanted to go somewhere, And I don't want y'all to think of him as a bad person. He wasn't. But these were all his concerns. Um, it would be a fight. If I really wanted to go somewhere, I'd have fighted for it. And then it wasn't always the greatest time. Because if you've got to fight somebody to go and have a little bit of fun, you're already in a negative. So I was scared to come to Robert and say, Robert, I need to go to this funeral for my friend. She was my foster mom. This is for my foster mom, and this is his office. I had to move into it, but this was his office, and he he worked in the at the desk right there, and so he was over there working, and he said, and I was asking him if I could go. I said, "Can I go?" And he's like, he just stopped what he was doing. He says that's his work computer, and he slid over here to his personal computer, and he just started typing. He said, "There, your reservations are made." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I called my friend back and I said, "Yeah, I'll be there." I said, "I'm going to stay in the hotel." Told her which one because I wanted to stay with her, but her house was full, and and um, and so I just stayed in the hotel. It was just best. It was right off the interstate and easy on, easy off, close to her house, close to where it needed to be, and everything. So I got on my spider, and where I live, 30 is this way, 20 is this way. And that really tells y'all a lot. But I got on 20 and I was going back towards Louisiana because that's where I was from originally. And I'm on the interstate on my spider. This is the first, I think, the first real trip I've taken by myself. I don't remember. And I look up and I see a sign and it says Shreveport. When I tell you that something broke off of me, it's like a, a boulder, a mountain, a boulder of stone just fell off of me. And I just went into worship and into praise, into thanksgiving. I was shouting, I was screaming, I was woo-hooing. I had tears coming down my face. I felt freedom for the first time in I don't know how long, probably ever. True freedom was like I didn't have to have permission to do what was right or what I wanted to. But I consulted with my love, my partner, my friend, my back support, and instead of fighting me, he just set it up. That's why I say I went from faith to freedom. Y'all, it takes faith to go through life in hell. But once God sets you free, you don't have to go back. That person is dead. Dead, 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 as Graham Cook says. I want y'all to experience that freedom. I hope you do. I hope whoever watches this, I hope you experience such freedom that you have the boulder falling off of you in the worship experience that I did, and even greater than I did. I just had to get on really quickly and tell y'all this. quickly, 20 minutes. God bless you. Have a great day.